Hello, so we're going to jump into some evidence today at the inquiry. Robert Daily, a current post office investigator who have obviously been portrayed in quite a poor light so far in terms of the drama, Mr. Bates versus the post office, and the documentary as well as subpostmasters accounts. And one of the things that he is going to take us through now is the fact that he would like to change his witness statement before he's even questioned, and he seems to have some trouble recalling where he went to school. Let's jump into the inquiry.
May we please call Mr. Daly?
Yep.
Repeat after me. I swear by Almighty God
I swear by Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Thank you.
Okay.
Could you confirm your full name, please, Mr. Daly?
Robert Daily.
Thank you for coming.
Right, so Robert Daly is a former post office investigator, so working for the post office. The investigator's obviously been portrayed in a fairly poor light in terms of the documentary, the accounts from subpostmasters, and the Mr. Bates versus the post office drama that aired on ITV.
To the inquiry to assist it in its work. As you know, I will be asking you questions on behalf of the inquiry. You should have hard copies of 2 witness statements in your name in a bundle in front of you. The first is at tab A1 and is dated the 7th of November 2023. If you could turn to page 39 of that, please.
39 now. That is a beastie statement, one of the bigger ones we've seen.
Have that?
Do you have a copy with a visible signature?
Yes, I do.
Is that your signature?
It is.
The second statement is at tab A2 and is dated the 27th of December 2023.
Sorry, I can't repeat that.
Do you have an A2 in your bundle?
No, I don't.
So my apologies. We're just obtaining a hard copy of the second statement for insertion in the witnesses bundle.
Yes, of course.
Look at all the people. It's rare we get a shot of the whole inquiry, isn't it? But there's space in the public gallery there, obviously, at the back, and these are all the people in front that are, counsel working for the various parties, including the inquiry.
Mr. Daly, do you now have a copy of a statement in your name dated the 27th of December 2023?
I do.
Could you turn, please, to page 12 of that statement?
Yes.
Is there a visible signature on that copy?
Yes, there is.
Is that your signature?
It is.
I understand that there are some corrections which you wish to make to your written evidence.
Ooh, because obviously one of the first reasons why they get you to confirm that it is your signature and that it is your statement is so that when they question you can't say, I didn't say that. But it'll be interesting to see what corrections does he want to make from the outset before he's even been questioned on anything. Let's have a listen.
In light of documents which have recently been provided to you by the inquiry.
Ooh, so as in the inquiry must have some contradictory evidence to some statements. This should be interesting.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Would you like to make those corrections?
Yes. In my second statement, I stated at paragraph 25 of my first statement, I believe that from 2006, all reports for non-police authorities were required to be submitted to the Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal Service electronically. I asked for that to be amended to, I actually say secondly, I believe the date I gave was likely incorrect. I now think it was from 2009 or 2010 and not 2006. From a document I received last week,
So I'm guessing there's been some proof there that actually that couldn't have happened till later. Presumably they've found the paper filings, or presumably the service wasn't available.
States that from the Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal Service that all specialist reporting agencies should from 1st of January 2006 be reporting all cases electronically to the Procurator Fiscal. So it was to change that back again. And paragraph 23 of the second request asked me what role I played in preparing the prosecution. This is for William Quorn. I stated the wording of the charge is similar to the wording used when you submit a charge via the SRA website, but I cannot recall with certainty if this is something I did. I can now say that the report would have been submitted via the SRA website. However, I cannot recall if it was myself that submitted it or Raymond Grant, who was my ex-colleague. And also in my
So far we're talking procedural differences here, nothing of the substantive evidence so far been called into question.
first statement at paragraph 11, I recall that it was temporarily promoted to the role of investigation manager in 2000, and I recall I attended some training at that time. Having looked at my statement again, paragraph 69 to 71 describe parts of my training in 2005. I would also have been trained on these parts in 2000.
So those two bits are substantive. A, I think I've held a more senior position, which could become very relevant later on. And B, actually, some training that I said I didn't get till 2005, I did receive in 2000, which could become relevant based on the questions answered and what he's written into evidence.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. With those corrections made, are the contents of your statements true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, they are.
For the purposes of the transcript, the references for Mr. Daly's statements are WITN 089-40100 and WITN 089-40200. Mr. Daly, I will not be asking you about every aspect of the witness statements you have provided, which will be published on the inquiry's website in...
And we will go over them with a fine-tooth comb, so don't worry about any bits we miss here. But obviously, we'd expect counsel are going to pick out some of the highlights, shall we say, some of the most relevant bits to the inquiry in the case.
Course, I will instead be asking about certain specific issues which are addressed in them.
Yes.
Starting, please, with the roles you have held with the Post Office. You have been employed by the Post Office since 1979, is that right?
That's correct.
You started as a counter clerk.
Yes.
You have set out in your statement the various roles you held thereafter and up until 1997.
No wonder it's so long if you started in 1979, that witness statement.
And those roles included roles in the remittance unit, cash management and distribution, is that right?
That's correct.
In 1997, you joined the security team with the Post Office.
That's the team that led the investigations into the Horizon shortfalls and the prosecutions of the subpostmasters.
That's correct.
And you started in the security team in 1997 in a postal officer grade, is that right?
Yes.
So you were not at that point involved in criminal investigations, is
No.
that right? Then there was a period in around 2000 when you were temporarily promoted to the role of investigation manager.
Yes.
Roughly how long were you in that temporary role? Can you recall?
I can't fully recall. It could have been any time between probably about 6 months, maybe more, maybe less. I can't recall.
And during that time, were you involved in conducting investigations?
Only as a second officer.
Wonder who was the principal on those ones.
At that stage, your temporary role did not become a permanent one, is that right?
That's correct.
Is it right that you applied for a further temporary investigation manager role in 2004?
Yes.
And you were successful in obtaining that position?
Yes.
And on this occasion, after the 6-month temporary period came to an end, you were told your position was being made permanent, is that
That's
right?
correct.
And this was in around 2005?
Yes.
So that's going to be the most interesting period, the 05 onwards. The 1979 to 2005 is probably less relevant because he's not held a management or investigatory position with the Post Office.
You say in your statement at paragraph 4 that in 2011 your role changed to security and investigation manager,
That's correct.
and your current role is that of security manager.
Yes.
So he's still in this role. He's been right in it since 2005. So pretty much virtually through the entire scandal, really, or certainly when it first started coming to light.
Were these roles the same in substance, albeit different in title?
In substance, in the 2011, I believe it was, we took on the role of the physical security as well. and that was visiting branches after robberies or burglaries or to give security advice.
I would like to turn, please, to the structure of the security team over the time you have worked within it. You say in your statement at paragraph 33 that when you joined the security team, there was a head of security and investigations.
Yes.
And that head of security and investigations oversaw the investigation team,
Yes.
the security team,
Yes.
the physical security team,
Yes.
and the casework team.
I believe so.
At this stage, the investigation team dealt solely with criminal investigations and had its own head of investigations. Is
That's
that right?
correct.
An entire team devoted towards prosecuting people. Wow, you can see how seriously they took it.
And you recall there being a restructure in 2008
Yes.
when a senior security manager position was introduced.
Yes.
Is it right that you recall the senior security manager reporting to the head of security
Yes.
and overseeing a number of teams within the security team?
Yes.
Was it at this point that the fraud team was created in 2008?
The fraud team was always there. It was just what were called investigation managers or investigation team, I believe. Then we called it the fraud team. It was a name
It was a
change.
change in name.
Changing, yes.
And you recall the fraud team being responsible for undertaking investigations?
Yes.
Is it also right that when the restructure happened in 2008, you were required to submit your CV?
Yes.
Was that in essence you reapplying for your own job as an investigator?
Yes.
You have highlighted in your second statement that the CV you submitted in 2008 erroneously contained your wife's educational achievements.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Really? I mean, I've done a lot of CVs before. I mean, granted, if you're not married, then including your non-existent wife's educational achievements is pretty difficult. It could be an honest mistake, but wow, I mean, employers aren't normally happy about that. You normally have to sign something that says this is true and accurate reflection, and surely you'd at least give your CV a once-over before submitting it.
Is that right?
Yes.
Did you realise this and correct this at the time?
No.
So it's something that's only come to light in the course of preparing your second statement?
Yes.
Well, this would become particularly relevant if that educational history had any bearing on the role he managed to get. So it'd be interesting to see what exactly the erroneous educational history is.
At paragraph 35 of your statement, you say that in 2011, investigation managers also took on a physical security role as well as their investigation role.
Yes.
That's what you were referring to earlier when there was the title change.
Yes.
You recall there being further restructures in 2004 to 2005 and in 2009.
Yes.
2019.
Yes.
Do you recall the various restructuring exercises also involving headcount reductions?
I don't recall.
I'm sorry, could you say that
Sorry.
again with your voice up a little?
I don't recall.
Do you recall any of the restructuring exercises impacting on the workload of investigators?
In 2019,
There were a number you dealt with: 2008, 2011, 2014 to 15, and 2019. In relation to any of those, do you recall that impacting upon the workload of investigators?
the investigations are stopped by 2019. That was the only time. 2014 and the other dates, no, there was no impact.
Really? I mean, that would presumably mean that you're massively overstaffed, because if you can start reducing headcount, cutting your workforce, and have no impact whatsoever on the workload of remaining members, that would suggest that there was far too many people employed in that role. In which case, it is wise to reduce the workforce size, voluntary redeployment, voluntary redundancy, but that would suggest massive overstaffing that needed to be reduced year after year. But that happening once is a mistake, but surely you'd stop taking on extra people if you were overstaffed rather than having to keep on getting rid of people year on year, unless it did have an impact on workload. But we have to take him at his word because he was obviously managing this team at this point.
In terms of the geographical structure of the security team and where you sat within it, you say at paragraph 10 of your first statement that you have been based in Glasgow throughout the time you have held roles in the security team. Is that right?
That's correct.
Does that include the period from 1997 until you took up a permanent investigator role in 2005?
That's correct.
When you held a temporary investigator role in 2000, were you at that stage investigating matters both in England and in Scotland?
No, just Scotland.
And so do I take it, just so that I'm clear from the start, Mr. Daly, that the structure of the security team which you've described relates to the structure over the whole of the United Kingdom? It wasn't confined to Scotland, your description, was it?
That's correct.
Thank you, yeah.
Is it right that since 2005 you have been part of the Security Operations North team?
Yes.
You have addressed in your statements, and I will be asking you in due course, about your involvement in the criminal investigation and prosecution of two individuals, Peter Holmes and William Quam.
So they're the two subpostmasters that the inquiry is aware of, where he's directly involved in the prosecution of.
Mr. Holmes's post office branch was based in Newcastle, and Mr. Quam's post office branch was based in the Outer Hebrides in Scotland. Both of these investigations commenced in 2008. Since 2005, have you been conducting investigations into matters both in England and in Scotland?
Yes.
And in terms of the geographical remit of the Security Operations North team, does that cover the north of England as well as Scotland?
It did, yes.
Can you help with a little bit more detail on which parts of the north of England came within your remit or come within your remit?
I believe it was Cumbria and over to Newcastle and upwards.
And finally, a quick update on the petition Hull Fujitsu to account for the post office scandal. We are currently at 236,653. Thank you to Irene, Barbara and Corinne, who signed in the last 17 minutes or so. Thank you for your continued support. Keep sharing, signing and subscribing for further updates on the post office scandal.